We got, we're grateful for Dave tonight. I'm grateful for Dave. I'm grateful that
Aw,
he's here. And most of you know him and love him. And I was really excited to have him on to present for us tonight, especially day before Thanksgiving and after we had our last panel. A lot of things that came up, I was like, you know what, this Dave's going to be great, a great next step for us to connect with. So you guys have all met with him. We love him. We're grateful to have him here. And I'm going to let him go ahead and intro what it is that he's going to talk with us today. And we'll wrap up around 6:30. Go ahead, Dave.
okay, great. Thank you. So I want to do my gratitude first, though, because I didn't get a chance.
Go for it. We love it.
Uh, and so I'm in Spokane, Washington,
Love it there.
visiting my
Fun.
girlfriend,
Nice.
and and I have to tell you, I do not recommend Spokane. Not highly recommended. So my gratitude is this. My gratitude is that I've been able um, to maintain a good mood despite the fact that I am in Spokane, Washington, where it has been cloudy and raining and snowing for as long as I can remember. It doesn't the sun doesn't shine here. It's dark and it's horrible. But have not been depressed. I mean, it's like every day you just wake up and see the bad weather and then just do whatever you do.
Do what you do.
Do
I
what you
love it.
do. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so tonight, here's what I'd love to do. So I I have this pet project called Sleepwalking into the Nightmare. All right. And it's I know it sounds kind of drama-y, right? And so and I've adapted it in different ways. So I adapted it for this, and then I scrapped part of that and decided we would do something totally off script, which is so like me. And so what I want to do is read you something, right? And so, but just pardon me while I'm reading, and it looks like I'm reading because I am. I'd be doing the TED Talk extemporaneous thing, but what I want to do is read through this, and then instead of giving you guys the bullet points right away on what I have found to do about this problem that we'll discuss, I thought we would just talk about it for a while, sort of crowdsource it and find out um, what what ideas you guys have on all this, what experience you have with this phenomena, and what ideas you guys have. And then we could talk about, if we have time, some of the bullet points that I have found, some of the things I've used, some of the things I recommend to solve the problem. So,
Right.
okay, so it is called Sleepwalking into the Nightmare: How You Get Stuck, Why You Stay There, and the first three moves out, which are kind of hidden because we'll talk about all of those things that you guys come up with that may be better than what the experts have come up with, probably, right? Okay, so and you'll have to forgive me, in some sense there's a little bit of the self-referential stuff here. 3 years ago I found myself completely stuck. I was in the middle of a divorce, living in a camper. I was still working at the bridge and living in a camper, and essentially left everything I'd known for 30 years. My reality was completely shattered. As I began to create a future worth living, I found something that at first was just sort of curious. My life, the last several decades, were totally blurry. I thought back on life, I couldn't really come up with what I'd been working on. I arrived in a bad place, but I couldn't really figure out where I'd been going. What exactly was I doing? Why couldn't I remember that? In time, I discovered that I had been drifting off course for a really long time. My life was out of alignment. So I started to research it, right? thinking maybe other people have this same phenomena happen. I was stuck in the camper, not able to move forward, not really sure of where to go with life, and not necessarily sure where life had been. I mean, I could remember raising the kids, and working, going to college. But like the overall theme of life, like what was I doing? Meanwhile, I was at work asking people, what are you doing with your life? Why do you not know where you're going? I would ask couples, so what are you guys working on together? Why are you doing this? And they would stare at me and they really didn't know. And I wondered, are they going to end up where I am now? Right. So as I began researching this whole thing, again, wondering at the time if other people have been through this, I found the story of Aaron Ralston. Now, some of you have probably heard this story, parts of the story, but in 2003, a guy named Aaron Ralston went hiking alone in Blue John Canyon, Utah. He had done this a lot of times. He was experienced in the desert. Uh, there was no cell service, and he didn't tell anyone where he was going. So he went down into a narrow slot canyon, and the walls were sort of chest width. And as he moved through, there was a boulder that shifted, and it pinned his right arm to the rock wall. Okay. So he was standing there, stuck. Um, he tried to pull free for many hours. Then a day passed. He was in there thinking, wondering what to do. Then 5 days passed. No food or water, no one coming to save him. No idea of what to do. No way to get out. So he realized something on a very visceral level. And I think this may resonate with some of you. There are different permutations of this, right? There are different ways that this presents in our life. He realized if he didn't move, he was going to die. And he realized that over and over again during the course of 5 days, stuck there. So, day 6, Aaron took out his pocket knife, broke the bones in his arm, and cut himself free. Okay, then after this, he was dehydrated, bleeding, half conscious. He rappelled down 65 feet of cliff, which, by the way, one handed rappelling. Okay. And hiked 6 miles before he was found by a family and life flooded out. He lived. Now, Aaron goes around and probably tells this story to large groups of people. The point, we all have a canyon. We all have moments where life pins us: trauma, depression, debt, relationships, addiction, shame, which is kind of woven through all of them, actually. And we can't think our way out. We can't wait it out. The only way out is to move. So Aaron survived because he moved, even while uncertain and terrified. That's what I'm thinking tonight. Like, it's not motivation, it's not inspiration, it's movement, direction, and identity. Right? Identity is a big piece of this. That one is a little harder to grasp. So people don't stay stuck because they're broken. They're stuck often because they're misaligned. So alignment, right? Alignment is something I talk about a lot. And alignment sounds like kind of hyperbolic. It sounds like one of those things that's like self-helpy, like on Instagram or whatever. But I remember hearing the story about commercial airliners or planes in general, but commercial airliners or jets in particular, that if they are off course by even 1 degree, initially it doesn't matter, right? Going down the runway, it's fine. But when they get in the air, commercial airliners go about 500 miles an hour. So if you're even 1 degree out of alignment, you could end up hundreds, thousands of miles away from your destination, right? So in life, this idea of alignment, I think, is incredibly important. And I don't think it's a static thing. I think we're always having to get back into alignment, right? Because we drift. And that's really what had happened to me. And then as I started working with a lot of bridge guests and a lot of people in my private practice, I found it was the same thing. What is this phenomena of being stuck and on the couch and not knowing what to do with your life? What is that? Well, I think it's a period of time where you've been out of alignment and you find yourself somewhere because your life blows up, right? You're forced to reconcile with what's happening in your life. Now, does it cause your life to blow up? Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think sometimes life just does blow up. And in that rubble, you try to redesign and you find that you have no idea of where you've been going. You really don't know where to go, right? So, what I wanted to do is open it up and talk about this and see what your experiences are with this. And then we can talk about a few of the fixes. So, if anyone has any thoughts on this, that would be interesting.
I love it. Any thoughts, guys? I know we can all relate in some way.
My first thought was like recognizing you're stuck, like seeing that you're like stuck.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That really is, it's funny that you say that because that is the first thing that I wrote. And that is like recognizing that you're stuck. And I think that it's more important than we know, right? Because it's really telling this is what a lot of people, the great thinkers have already kind of thought through. What do we do about this thing? Because it's not isolated to one person. It's a huge phenomena, So understanding where you really are without making it worse or better, right? And without infusing it with a lot of shame. Because shame really makes it that one of the things that's said about shame is that it makes things sticky.
Mm.
Yeah. That's where like at the bridge we talk a lot about self-love. I look at it like self-compassion. But the reason for self-compassion is that it unlocks the ability to change, right? When we're locked into shame, it makes it really difficult to move forward and change.
Mm.
So we have to unlock it by disentangling it from shame. So if you look at like a lot of substance abuse programs, right? Substance abuse programs frequently will talk about the role of shame and dealing with that effectively so we can unlock the process of change.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Meg, did you have a thought, honey? You came off of mute for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I feel like I've been stuck with like I'm still stuck in my work situation and I feel like there's a fear with it. It's like you're stuck, there's a problem, you have to make a change, but you're also scared. Like what has to be done. It's like rock rappelling, like taking that first step over
Mm-hmm.
the edge where you're just like, and once you do it, it'll be easier. It's just taking that first step.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Taking the first step over the edge when you're repelling. And then
Yeah.
you find it's kind of fun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? But yeah, taking do you think too, I mean, here's another part of this because it is rooted in the nervous system. The nervous system is like so guiding and controlling so much of our lives. If you have repelled, let's say using your metaphor, if you've repelled enough, you're pretty good at getting over the edge,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's it's not as scary um, when you've learned to make it over the edge, and you also learn some things about that too. Like you learn that when you go over the, so you've learned something about the process, which is how to make it less dangerous when you go over the edge. Um, but that's so. I think one of the key parts of this is one of the points, is emotional regulation, which again at the bridge we talk about a lot. It may not be we may not talk about it as much as probably we should, because emotional regulation is huge. And there are a couple of ways to get at that, right? One of them is if we will take the uncomfortable actions enough, which is hard, like back to the repelling metaphor, because it's easier than the work thing. If we do it enough, we'll eventually get pretty good at it and we'll learn, okay, well, this is mostly safe. I just have to do it this way. It's skill base, right? Um, the other way is some things on the back end. Really, I know, I wish it was something sexier than this, but the reality is the heaviest hitters in the research are mindfulness, um, journaling, like free association journaling, and believe it or not, gratitude. If you even if you look it up, the crazy thing is gratitude has a big effect on emotional regulation. But the gratitude I always recommend to people, I think you don't do three. You know how there's like the whole like, let's do three gratitudes a day in our journal, and then we'll no. I think you do a page, a full page of gratitudes. And when you do gratitudes too, one of the things about it is that like initially when you do gratitude, you'll do something like, if you do a page, you'll write things like, I'm grateful for the nice breeze this morning that's keeping it cooler. Right? I mean, that's good. But if you start to do a page a day, you will get way past that way fast. And then you will be like, okay, now what do I write? But that's good. It's good to kind of struggle with it a little bit. But then when we write gratitudes, it can be important to write them from the perspective of something that you've done to overcome something. So for example, I'm I'm grateful that I'm grateful that I've learned to have hard conversations. So I was able to talk to my boss the other day. I'm grateful that I've gotten better at managing my anger. So when I talk to my teenager, I'm able to stay calm. So something like that, right? To make it a little bit more of something that you have overcome or something that you've learned or something that you're doing. But
Dave,
gratitude, yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I really love what you're saying right now because you spoke earlier about the compassion piece. And when we
Mm,
doing what you're saying, you're fusing both, right? Like the gratitude you're finding is giving yourself the compassion at the same time. It's beautiful. I love the concept. I love it. So cool.
yeah, yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of this way of I think I think the idea of doing gratitude, like in the research we found, is there's a lot more than just. I mean, I think you start with I'm grateful that the sky is so blue, because it's so pretty today, right? And then yeah, you can move into a more self-compassionate place where I'm grateful that I've gotten good at overcoming adversity because it helped me deal with those things that happened yesterday.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Corky has a good question too in the chat. She says, "What about gratitude towards others? I like giving gratitude to other people."
I think giving gratitude to other people is excellent. And I also think like physically doing it. So like I'm grateful that I'm grateful for my mother because she is so loving. Calling mom and telling her I'm grateful for, yeah. So actually doing that mhm, is
Right.
really good.
Yeah. Well, and then Corky made that fun, text her calls. She's like, maybe I'm not as good at self-love, right? Corky, I like it. So I think you need to practice a little bit of both, maybe. Find those ways that you are improving. Just like Dave's saying, those statements are awesome.
Well, and there's a reason to do it too, right? So, I mean, I think it's hard to the idea of self-love and self-compassion, it it got really messed up because it kind of got mixed in with like what was back then called new age, and then all of that stuff was just like sort of dismissed, and then it was just thought of as garbage. But the reality is, again, it's well researched, it's incredibly important. And back to shame makes everything worse. Shame is not a useful emotion, right? And so if you look at the functional capacity of different emotions, they're kind of like these sort of like these crude ways of helping us to behave differently, right? It's almost like, I mean, this is just look at being hungry. How does your body tell you that you're hungry? You feel agitated and lightheaded. Okay, that's as good as you get. No, yeah, that's as good as you get. It's so like in your car, you have like probably 45 different things that tell you stuff. Like in the navigation system in the car I was in today, shows the car from above, right? Shows the car from above. I don't even have to look out the window. I just look at the screen and I can go all around all the cars behind me. No problem. How does it do that? I don't know. But our bodies, we have these pretty primitive systems. The so shame is different. It's in its own place. We have guilt, which is kind of like a cousin of shame. What does guilt do? Um, Someone steals $20, they feel guilty, they feel that in their body, it prompts them to think about it, they pay the person back and apologize. Okay, right. All the emotions have some corollary sort of behavioral characteristics, but shame, when we look at the origin of shame, the origin was to separate the person from the group, right? So when we look at that, what so we're a pack animal, right? We're a collective species. And as a pack animal, we were interdependent. We have been over time, a little less so now than we've ever been in the history of humanity, where groups had to stay together. And if you were outside of the group, you died, right? And so shame was triggered when someone did something that was a violation of the group, right? And what that did was that put them outside of the group. And if you think about it, that's really what shame does. It isolates you, right? So so it's not a productive emotion. And so then when things are infused with shame, because well, there are a lot of different reasons why this happens. Sometimes it's upbringing. It can be a lot of different reasons why you have this huge shame complex. But if you can disentangle the shame from what's going on, from what you've done, or from what has happened, again, it unlocks the ability to change. And that's really the key, the the key finding, the key thing to remember, that there's a functional capacity. So why do I want self-compassion? Who cares? Do I need it? I mean, so I'll feel better. Well, yeah, but it it makes it possible for you to change. It's much, much easier to change. So yeah, there's the deep dive on shame. Any other thoughts?
I had a thought kind of going back to like just the original um, premise of being stuck and the story you were telling. And it kind of relates to my own experience because I feel like I have felt stuck for a very long time now. I feel like I'm kind of just starting to come out of it. And going back to the story about the guy who was stuck under the boulder, like when you're stuck, I feel like there's such panic about it, at least for me. You're like, there's moments of panic, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm stuck.
Hmm.
But then what I'm experiencing lately is that I'm still stuck in a way, but I'm like calmer about it. Like I've calmed down about it. And in the story I can imagine he had to have some sense of like calmness or like clarity in order to make the next step. To be like, oh, this is what I have to do, right? In order to get out. Like it almost seems like you have to have a moment of clarity where you then decide what to do next. But it's not in a state of panic. It's like more in a state of calmness, right?
Hmm. That's
If you
such a good
understand what I'm
point.
saying.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a good point because, like, if we think about it, the freaking out brain does not make good decisions moving forward. I mean, the freaking out brain is only if you're being attacked or whatever, but the freaking out brain does not make great decisions. Part of the reason for that is that your creative ability to envision a life that you want to move into opens up as a result of being calmer. It comes from a calmer place. So if you sit down and you try to design your future life, right? You just try to write it out and you're super stressed about the present, you're uncertain about the future, your nervous system is not good, you really don't have the capacity to dream about anything. That's, I mean, that, that, like, really being stuck. If you talk to someone that's really stuck and you're like, well, I don't know, what would be cool for you to do? Like, where would you like to be in a couple of years? They're going to be like, I don't know. I can't tell you that because the freaking out brain is just not the creative brain.
Yeah, that's like exactly my experience too, is like everyone would be like, well, just like, what do you want to do? And I was just like so stuck and in panic that I couldn't even see past anything to even think about answering the question. Even though I
Yeah,
wanted to know the answer, it's like, of course, if I knew what I wanted to do, I would be doing it.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, so fear narrows our capacity to think, like, in these ways that show up. It shows up in interesting ways. Like, this is a kind of weird example. I know it's off color a little bit, but there were some studies done, and these were some time back, um, of bank tellers, right? Back before we had all the cameras and junk in banks, when banks would get robbed, what we would find is that the teller would be able to describe the gun, but they weren't able to describe the person that was holding the gun. And but what then that pointed us toward was this idea that fear narrows your focus even visually, right? And so I'm a rock climber. And one of the things that happens when you're rock climbing is you could be belaying someone and they'll be up there climbing and they'll start to get scared and you can see that they're looking for the good holds, but they can't really see them. They really are not keying into those holds, but you can see them from the ground because you're just belaying. You're just holding on to them, waiting for them to fall, which is what they're about to do, right? Usually, though, interestingly, they'll fall, you'll catch them, lower them to the ground, hang out for a little while. They'll reclimb it and they'll climb right through that sequence. They'll see all of those holds. So, yeah, it narrows your focus. And it's just like super unpleasant. There's that thing too. Hmm. Yeah, I think, also, if you're trying to redesign your life and still the nervous system's not super good, and so you're still kind of freaking out a little bit, I think you just do it and then throw it away and then do it again and then throw it away and just keep doing it for a little while, because I think that you eventually can move into this place where you're thinking more creatively and it's more like, dream is not the word I want. It's more like what would be cool, what would be amazing, what would be great, what would be fulfilling, right? I think that comes after you write it and kind of come up with a few drafts and just throw them away and just let them be garbage. Just know I'm going to try this for a minute and it's not going to go well at first. That's
Right.
fine. And I'm just going to throw it away. I'm going to keep doing that and then just keep kind of rewriting it until I get to this point where I'm like, it'd be cool. I mean, I guess I could just write this because I've already written like 5 things and thrown them away. It would be really good to do. So that, also taking the one thing that's super big in the research now, this is huge, is looking at the steps that you need to take to move into something, whatever it might be, and then making them way smaller. So you're doing like just a little bit at a time, just a tiny little bit. Mm-hmm.
I have a comment too, Dave. I love this. This discussion is awesome, you guys. You're so wise, all of you. I like to think of too, like we mentioned. I like when the movement piece was mentioned, because if we acknowledge and find that we are stuck, right, and that still could be some of the space that we're in. But I love how Ashley brought up the perspective of clarity and being in that calm space when we recognize that we can have some kind of movement, but we don't have like an unrealistic outcome that we're expecting, when we just know we just want to move. And that's kind of what you're saying. I feel like David's just like, write it out, whatever it might, we might fail a million times, but the whole point is that we're moving, and sooner or later that movement becomes something, right? And so it's just, don't like, kind of just move without an outcome expected, like without a specific piece. Just realize we can just keep moving regardless of whether or not it becomes something we thought it was or wasn't. It's still going to bring us to that clarity piece.
Yeah, I think the other thing about that is that the more movement you can do, the less ruminating and circular thinking you're going to be doing, because we don't mean to do this, but what we do when we sit in the house or the apartment, on the bed, on the couch, whatever, we think, we have grooved that process of circular thinking over and over. We've been doing reps, right? How do we get out of that? Well, I mean, we could use some cognitive behavior or whatever, but a better way to get out of that is to start acting, to start doing things, right? And again, it doesn't matter if they're the exact right thing. It matters that we're not engaging in recursive thinking the whole time. Instead, we were meant to move. We're meant to push against something. That's what we've been doing for 200,000 years more, right? We've been pushing against something. Way back when, we had to push against the environment because it was trying to kill us. I mean, it was keeping us alive, but it was also trying to kill us. Plus, other people were trying to kill us, But so doing something, and I think also it's the way that we think about failure is wrong. We think about failure as though it is an end point, as though it's something to avoid, as though it says something negative about us. And yet we've been failing our whole life, right? At all of the things that we have done that we succeeded in. So for example, when you learn to walk, if you've watched a child, how many times do they fall when they're learning to stand up, right? If you learn any skill, I always use this as a weird example because no one learns to shoot arrows at anything. But if we were shooting at a target, well, how many times are you going to miss? Like most of the time. And we think of it as a fun game. We're like, this is killer. I mean, this is so much fun. Like maybe if I aim to the right, and when you aim to the right, you miss it again. And we just keep doing it For the longest time, we would just keep doing that. And that process, those each successive iteration, you miss to the left, you aim to the right a little bit. You miss to the, above, you breathe a little less when you take the shot. Each one of those iterations is the way that we learn. And we somehow have this contorted idea of failure that it's like the stopping point. Like, don't try it because you might fail is not a good mantra for anything at all, right? Failure does suck. It does. But it's probably not as bad as being stuck. Yeah. What else? Let me think. I think it's also important to come back to nervous system regulation again and again and again and again. I mean, I think that that's really huge. I think we can do that on the back end. So I think that for relation, one of the things that I'm always bugged because I think that there are things, those things that they should have taught us, like when we were younger. You always think they're like those things. I wish they would have taught us this like 30 years ago. Well, one of them is being able to regulate your nervous system, right? And we try to do that with like scrolling Instagram, drinking. There are probably 400,000 things that we try to do to keep our nervous system good. Avoiding, that's one that we do. We avoid. And and ruminating is a way, and like, so we try to manage our nervous system in some very unproductive ways, but I think the most productive thing to do is to work on it on the back end. So again, back to practices like mindfulness, stream of consciousness journaling, gratitudes, also time with people, like people that are good, like connection. Those are great ways to regulate our nervous system. And the more we can do that, admittedly, the better we're going to be when we face really difficult situations. I don't think we need perfection either. I think we just need to try. We need to get better at it. If you think about it, like we think about the angry guy at the bar. What's the problem with the angry guy at the bar? His emotional regulation is horrendous. That's why that's happening, right? He is dysregulated emotionally. So if we think about like a fight between two couples, when does that cross the line? It crosses the line, well, because of two things: communication skills, we'll just throw that in there. But the other thing, emotional regulation. If you're dysregulated, you start saying things in ways that are absolutely unproductive. So moving forward in your life, yeah, if you can work on self-regulation on the back end, the practices are hugely important. You have to do the work. What else? What are we missing?
I'm wondering, I keep going back to the question that Rachel proposed at the beginning, where she said, well, we have to realize that we're stuck. How would we come to those? How would we come to those pieces, right?
Mhm.
How would we recognize? And I mean, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking emotional regulation has a lot to do with it, because when we're starting to become aware of what's happening to us when we're dysregulated, we might realize that there is something that's stuck. But what would you think on the stuck piece?
Yeah. So I think, all right, when we talk about alignment, right, we have to be in alignment with something. So being stuck is the phenomena, eventually the end point of being out of alignment. So alignment with what? So here's where we get to a huge digression, but this is a good one. So I think it's important for people to know what their requisite values are. Okay. Their deepest values. Now, usually when I ask people this question, and it doesn't matter who it is, I was this way in the beginning too. I'm like, okay, values. Do you mean like I value honesty and I don't know, I value like organic food. Like I don't know what, you know what I mean? What do I mean? So what I mean in most people, if you ask them, what is one of your deeper, most resonant values? What would people say about you? What's significant about you? What's something that someone couldn't like pull out of you, couldn't take it out of you? You just wouldn't be the same. Couldn't drag it out of you, right? So an example, one of my biggest values that I found was growth. Okay. So always growing, always evolving from things like from problems. So taking problems and leveling up because of them. Leveling up in all the ways, always growing, always pushing and moving forward, right? Uh, and then working with other people and sharing that back and forth. Like it's a reciprocal thing. We're growing together. We're we're all humans. We're doing this human thing. So we're going to step into the same bad places. So when we step out of them, we work with one another to help one another move forward. So for me, that was a resonant value. And I think it's a really good idea to learn what your values are. Now, how do you do this? Well, a couple of ways. One, um, one of the best ways is to ask people that know you, like that you trust, not the shamers around you, but like people that you know. And they'll tell you something that you already probably know about yourself. And I don't mean like you're pretty. I mean like, like you value you value strength or you value you know, and so that or here's a good one too. For people that are chat GPT users, okay, this is kind of crafty. What you do is ask ChatGPT to help you identify your values. Ask me 3 questions that will help me to identify my resonant values that I can build my life on. Okay? Now, you and ChatGPT can work on that together. I know it sounds crazy, but like we have to not be afraid of the new technology, okay? Because it's like the new world. So here's the deal, just use the AI and do it. And ChatGPT is fantastic for doing that, helping you work back and forth. So I think, that helps us determine the direction of our lives, right? So for me, if being in a relationship, there has to be the potential for growth, right? That has to be there. And it has to be a reciprocal thing, or it's not going to work because it's not built on the architecture that I have. That's like your internal architecture is built that way, right? So if for you it's freedom, and it really is that prominent for you, that feeling and being free is incredibly important. The way you design your life and the way you move forward is completely different than someone else that wouldn't have that resonant value. And also, it drills back to one thing. If we don't know those most important things about ourselves, the resonant values, why? Why don't we know that? How do we not know that? It's just like in a relationship. In a relationship, what do we value together? If we don't know that, how do we build forward at all? We will be out of alignment, right? So and I know that takes this like 14 steps beyond, right? That takes us a little bit far afield. But that's one of the again the bedrock principles. If you're Here's a better example too, an easier one. Like successful companies are built on values, right? It's their brand. Okay. And so we know certain brands and what certain brands do. And so they have dug in to their resonant values, their mission statement, why they do what they do. And then everything that they do flows out of that, right? Everything they do flows out of that mission statement. And it's super important for us to do the same thing. So that's my long-winded answer for the for that one. I was watching your dog in the background too, by the way, which was cute. Or was it a cat? Is that a cat that you have, Tanisha, or a dog?
I got 2 dogs.
Yeah.
2
Okay.
dogs.
Yeah.
Brenda's
But
got a dog too. We're dog people.
oh, that he looks like a blanket. That's what you should call it. You should name him Blanket. Is his name? It's not.
Just chill. She just chilling. The other one, he likes to come up here and mess up all of my pillows.
He just was there.
Yeah.
You didn't even know.
He sneaks. He sneaks.
But I think that's important. I think it's important for couples to do too. Like,
Yeah.
well, what are we even doing? Why do we not know what we're doing? I mean, how are we going to do well if we don't know
Uncle
what we're doing?
Dave.
Oh, there it is. There's that.
Aw.
He's the best dog ever.
Gus.
He's the wonder dog. Look at how cute.
He loves you guys. Sorry
He's
to
like
interrupt. I just had to share.
he's
Dog.
like 100 years old.
No, it's not. I'm 13. Shut your mouth.
I like how you think, because where I'm taking it is, if we know our values, we can ask ourselves in the moments that we are noticing that we're in a funk, right? Or that something's not right. But like going back to Rachel's piece, like, how do we know when we're stuck? If we are aligned with know what our values are, we're going to be better able to see if we're stuck or not, right? Because we're not going to be aligned with our values.
100%. We will be, yeah. And that can just creep in the direction. Like if we don't know, it is going to happen that we will be out of alignment. And again, back to this, I know this is a pretty granular example, but it is. If a company doesn't have a mission statement, if they don't know what they're doing, and if it's not distilled down to something that's pretty easy to see, then what are they doing? Like how do they make anything? And so it's the same with us. And I think that sometimes, it has to change a little bit over time too. Our lives do change. But I think that often, if you keep drilling down, you'll find like the deepest part of it, right? Like, so for me, like growth was like continual growth, and like sharing that was really the deepest part. There could be other things that were a goal, like what was raising kids was a goal. Do you know what I mean? That was like, I want to raise kids and do a good job and whatever. Okay, great. But through that whole process, growth was important to me. And after that, it was important. And now it's important. And it's always been woven through the tapestry of my life. And I think that all of us have that. But we really, I mean, I think using something like other people or Chat GPT are really useful in as much as they can help us find what's already in there. It's there. We just don't see it. Sometimes it takes something from the outside, but it's not something that we find out there. It's something that we find in here.
I love that. Anybody else have any thoughts? I think this is a great place for us to kind of, we're at time, and I feel like this is awesome where we're kind of wrapping up into this. Is there any other thoughts or connections that you want to make before we go eat turkey? My family does something different. We do a big brunch. So we like have this huge brunch, like with tons of kind of breakfast foods. And I personally like it even better than the turkey foods. But Yeah, it's great. We do have ham, but we do. It's so fun. It is like, but you're stuffed for most of the day. Gab, did you have anything, Gab or Renda? You
Oh,
guys?
I was just gonna say I paid for my family to get Thanksgiving catered, so I don't have to hear about dishes and cooking and all that. I'm like, everything's already done, pre-made. We're gonna throw it in the oven and eat, and I don't have to worry about dishes, nothing.
That's
You
the
are
best way.
the year, the hero of the year, man. That is great. I
Yep.
love it. You guys, thank you for being here. Dave, thank you so much. What a cool conversation. There were some really, really big nuggets in this. I hope you guys go back. Like I said, I always send these out. I'm usually sending them out later than I want to have them out, but I get them out to you guys. Revisit these things. Let yourself use them as references, as notes. Something that I'm going to challenge you guys as we take away tonight is get that gratitude page. Start practicing the page. I love that. Where instead of just a few things, let's start a page and see where it takes us. Let's start looking at the things that we're doing and in our shift that we're grateful for, and see where that takes us. Let us synergize that compassion and gratitude piece. So I love it. I love you guys. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Love you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Much love.
Love you
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.